morning.
Good morning, my friends. Today is indeed a good day. I can love you and be your friend, even if we think differently, believe differently, act differently, look different, or come from different places in life. You are welcome here. With that in mind, let's get our day started together. Let's slow down together each morning to contemplate valuable precepts and how we might apply these in our thoughts, words, and actions today, and how they might grow into practices, habits, and even ways of life, so that our life's example is rooted firmly in core values that are a benefit to ourselves and to all around us. It is a marvelous Monday. I apologize that my camera is not working this morning, but who needs to see me? Nobody needs to see me. The important stuff is what we're covering. So this morning, we're looking at goodness. Goodness as a precept that we want rooted deep into our innermost being, so that we might see it, that we might value it and treasure it and cling to it, and that we might see it applied in our life today, and that the world around us might benefit, and that we might even benefit as well from the application and the living out of this precept, so that we are firmly rooted in these precepts, so that we stand on a solid ground of who we are and what we stand for. And this is my goal. So this morning, we look at goodness. It does matter what we are talking about when we say goodness. Someone might hear goodness and think that it's about whether or not we're keeping a set of rules. And that's not quite goodness. I'm not talking about being compliant. Compliant doesn't necessarily mean that you believe or that you trust in something. I can be compliant legally or ethically just so that I don't get in trouble. That doesn't mean that I have an inner goodness, right? That doesn't speak to a goodness. I can be compliant just for my own needs and my own reasons. But that would not necessarily be good. That would not be goodness. So when we talk about goodness, we're actually, when we speak about this term, we can say that it is being merciful and generous to those in need. Now, someone might say, wow, that is a huge leap. But it really isn't. Because goodness isn't just in our own heads. This isn't just intellectual stimulation that we're talking about here. This isn't high philosophy. Goodness is not just thoughts and feelings. It is action. How much good is done if I'm a grand philosopher who never puts that into action? That's not goodness. In fact, if we know what is right and good to do to help someone, and we think about it and we have grand good intentions, but we never act upon it, that might be less good than someone who is ignorant to the situation and doesn't even know any better or doesn't know what they should do. So no, goodness is not just thoughts and feelings. It requires action, or it's not goodness. It also isn't doing good things to see ourselves or to signal to the world that we're virtuous. That's just inflating our own ego. And that is not good. That is not goodness. It also isn't just learning how to play the game. And what I mean by that is goodness isn't just learning how to avoid the negative consequences of foolishness. There is wisdom and there is foolishness. Goodness is not just being good enough to not reap the negative consequences. And it isn't just teaching others how to avoid negative consequences in their own lives. That isn't goodness. It falls short of goodness, right? Goodness also isn't just providing what is fair or deserved. If I see someone who has made poor decisions and they're suffering the negative consequences, and I say, well, it is fair and it is deserved that they are in their circumstances, and I do not act on their behalf, how can I say that is goodness? That is indifference, right? I'm not saying that is wrong. I'm saying there's a difference between fairness and what is deserved and making sound judgments versus goodness. Goodness is an uprightness of heart and life that acts on the behalf of others. Goodness is not about what they deserve. It is about what they need and whether or not we care. I pause on that because goodness is about whether or not we care. That should hit us in a way if we value goodness. Because goodness is a selfless perspective of serving the needs of others. Each of us has room for goodness. There is no one breathing at this moment. There's no one within the sound of my voice. There's no one that would hear this that would say, I have too much goodness. Now, there is nothing wrong with having what we need and having things. I don't want you to misunderstand this graph. I'm not saying that everyone has to live a life of poverty. In fact, if we were all teeming with goodness, you can imagine that we would all be lifting hands together. And there wouldn't be need like there is. Goodness, this graph demonstrates the man by himself in his wealth, piling it up for himself, is a stark contrast to a community that is lifting hands together. When we see ourselves and we see our own needs and we only think of ourselves, it is very hard to lift our hands together in a community and to selflessly serve the needs of others, because it is me and it is everyone else. But that is not goodness. If I see them as my enemies or as undeserving or as, if it's all about judgment, that is not goodness. I'm not saying this one's easy. If it was easy, we would have gotten there. Goodness is a walk. Just like with all of the other precepts, we're not going to go from 0 to 100 in one day. But we can take a bite. We can't eat the elephant in one day, right? But I can take a bite. I can take a step. I can choose to do something today that will move me one step closer. I can put that into practice. And over the long term, I will move closer and closer to that goal. I will see it lived out. It will become a habit and a part of my life. So that's why I focus on these precepts. Selflessness. Serving the needs of others. There's probably not a single one of us that will not encounter today, in some way, another person in need. It may be as simple as me picking my clothes up out of the floor, or taking the trash out, or giving my wife an encouraging word, or seeing someone at work and realizing that something might help them to get something done easier. And not just thinking about these things, but acting upon these things. Again, not good intentions. Not doing those things to get reward, but to serve the need. This is goodness. It's valuable. I can see that. And I hope that it will be a part of my life today. I love y'all. I thank you for joining me this morning. I hope that there's been some value in it. I look at these things and I wonder, how much impact would we have on the world if each of us chose to treasure these things, to truly treasure them, to get excited that today I get to see goodness take root in my heart and pour out in my life and have even just a tiny impact in the world around me. Imagine if it takes root and it's contagious and it spreads. You may not ever know how your goodness or your kindness or your love or your patience helps or inspires someone else. You may not be able to measure it, but imagine it spreading in immeasurable ways. That excites me. I hope you all have a wonderful day and look forward to spending time with you again together soon. Take care.